Imagine that you could only read 5 more books for the rest of your life, but those 5 books had to make you a multi-millionaire in the game of real estate. The question would be, which 5 books should you read? Truth is, people ask me all the time, Kris, you've read so many financial books, you've had so many mentors, which books would you read? Today, I'm gonna reveal the 5 books you need to read if you wanna become a multi-millionaire in real estate. By the way, at the end of this video, I'm gonna show you where I'm going to hide this $100 bill. I'm gonna put it in my favorite real estate book. And the first person to find it can either keep the $100 or you can trade it for $10,000 of free real estate mentoring with me. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna answer the question. Today, I'm gonna share my top 5 favorite books on how you make millions of dollars in real estate. And you know what? I've got them all packaged right here. My favorite book in the middle, I've got this $100 card. It's like a ticket. It's like the, I've got a golden ticket.
And with a golden ticket, it's a golden day.
That you can either keep or exchange for $10,000 of free mentoring with me. So, why books in the first place, right? I mean, Kris, isn't it okay if I just subscribe to your YouTube channel, I consume your videos? Like, isn't that enough? Listen, in a 10-minute video, I can only go so deep. The reality is, books have the critical details to share with you that you're not gonna pick up these nuances in videos. For example, every master or author of a book, they've got different pointers, they have different perspective. Also, writers are forced to express their ideas clearly and concisely. They have the time to think about it over and over and over again and say, what's the best map I can give you to understand this principle? Also, you do retain information better when you actually read it and you see it. Number 4, you can study the material again and again because it's like having a private workbook of how to actually do this. And finally, it's how you sharpen the saw. It's like I always say, leaders are readers. And if you want to be a leader, you better get reading. So here's the question. Kris, what are those 5 books? Well, they were actually selected based on 5 unique questions. And I found the best all-time 5 authors to provide answers. Those answers are what unlock the key to becoming a multimillionaire in real estate. And here's the first question. How do I develop the mindset to go into real estate? Because real estate is more than just like tactical training. You actually have to learn to think in a successful manner. You have to learn how to think differently. And guess what? There's a book that'll do that for you. What is that book? It's right here. All right. The first book that you need for developing your real estate mindset, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This is one of the first books that I ever read in real estate. And what he does is he teaches you what most fathers or mothers teach their kids about money. And then in this book, he actually has a rich dad. And his rich dad says, even though society and family teaches this, this is actually the way you want to think. This book is a brilliant, concise work of art teaching you the mindset of money. He's notable for having said, my poor dad said, I can't afford it. My rich dad asked, how can I afford it? Let me share with you what I love about this Rich Dad, Poor Dad book. He gives you this basic quadrant. He calls it the cash flow quadrant. And in this book, he basically has an E, B, an S, and an I. The E stands for an employee. And basically, this is where you trade time for money. You can probably guess that this is not a smart quadrant to be in. If you shift over to B, however, this is where you become a business owner. And you basically have employees that you exchange for making money. You pick up a game of leverage. Down here in the lower left, you have the S quadrant. This is for the self-employed. This is a person, again, just like the employee, that is still trading time for money. Sometimes these people work harder for less money. And then finally over here in the bottom right, you have the I quadrant. This is the investor. This is where you have your money working for you, and a little bit turns into a lot. Now, if you look at this quadrant, 2 of these represent the quadrants you want to be in, and 2 of these you don't want to be in. Check them out. You want to shift from E and S to B and I. You want to become a business owner. You want to be an investor. Age of 26, after having read that book and some of the others I'm going to share here, I had bought 25 homes. Those homes worked day and night for me so that I could quit my job. I ended being an employee. I was not self-employed. I was an owner of a business that worked for me. And that's what you want to do, and that's the value that you get out of Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. 1 book down, 4 to go. The next book answers this question: how do I use time to my advantage instead of working against me? The whole game of real estate investing really comes down to you not picking up a second or a third job, but rather it's time to learn how to work smarter instead of harder. And the author of this book that taught me how to do it, drum roll please. This comes from Warren Buffett. It's called The Snowball. I'm not gonna lie, it's a fat book.
Because I'm fat, come on, fat.
But there's so much wisdom and knowledge here. One of the things he says about time, he says, time is the friend of the wonderful business, the enemy of the mediocre. Also from this book, check this out. He says, life is like a snowball. The important thing is finding wet snow and a really long hill. Can you imagine standing on the top of a long hill, packing some snow together, and then rolling it down, and then as it rolls, it just picks up momentum, it picks up more snow, it gets bigger, it gets bigger, it gets bigger. You're about to learn 10 top lessons right now in this video from the guy who's like one of the wealthiest in the world, and this is how he does it. 10 ways to get wealthy. Number 1, reinvest your profits. When you buy a business, when you buy real estate and it spins off cash flow, let that be a ball that continues rolling forward. Number 2, be willing to be different. You follow the herd, you're gonna get hurt. Go against the herd, it might be scary, but it's gonna pay off if done properly. Warren Buffett, he's not like a lot of people out there. Did you know that that guy still lives in the original house that he's had for like 50 years? Number 3, he says, never suck your thumb. You need to read this next part or else that doesn't make sense, which is, if you find something good, take action. Don't sit around doing nothing, kind of like sitting around and sucking your thumb. Number 4, spell out the deal before you start. In other words, he's a fan of getting everything in writing. You don't take action on anything until you really see it in print first. Pause. Would you be willing to share my YouTube videos if it meant that you could earn a chance to win $100,000 of free real estate mentoring with me for life? Click the link below, share a bunch of my videos, and this week you'll find out if I pick you. The 5th wealth rule in Buffett's book, watch small expenses. In other words, he was a stickler on everything because a lot of small expenses ultimately add up to a lot of expenses, and a lot of expenses hurt your profits, whether it's a real estate deal or a business. Number 6, Buffett is so good at smelling risk. So he always says, assess the risk. If there's too much, don't do the deal. I believe the same thing in real estate. It has saved my hide so many times. Number 7, be persistent. If at first you don't succeed, try again. Number 8, know when to quit. In other words, it's not always about persisting. It's balanced against knowing when to call it and say, this is not working. Number 9, helped me make a lot of money in real estate. He said, limit what you borrow. And by that, he talks about good debts and bad debts. Real estate done correctly, it's a lot of good debt. But don't unnecessarily go into debt if you don't need to, especially for consumer debt. And his 10th rule for creating wealth is know what success really means. He says, I love the fact that Buffett is not on an ego trip with giving. According to the article, Buffett does not want any buildings named after him. That's so cool. I really respect that about him. And true to who he is, my friend, he loves creating wealth. It's a game for him, and the more he makes, the more he gives. 2 down, 3 to go. The 3rd book that you're gonna need has to answer this question. How do you negotiate a good deal? If you're gonna make a lot of money in real estate, you need to know how to do that. And frankly, there is someone who is better than anyone I know when it comes to negotiating. You know who that is? Our president, Mr. Donald Trump. In this book, The Art of the Deal, he says this: my style of deal making is quite simple and straightforward. I aim very high, and then I push and push and push and push until I get what he wants. And guess what? Does he not do that? And then he also said, good publicity is preferable to bad, but from a bottom line perspective, bad publicity is sometimes better than no publicity at all. Controversy, in short, sells. I think we have some proof that that worked for him. Donald Trump may be a controversial human being, but there's no denying the fact that there's something worth studying and learning about the billions that he's done in the game of real estate by his own merits.
Billions and billions and billions and billions and billions and billions.
And in this book, when I read it, he really showed specifically some strategies that I've picked up in my own real estate game. My ability to negotiate is why I am where I am today. Trump said this: sometimes by losing the battle, you find a new way to win the war. So you know what? This is a guy that just never gives up. And in the game of negotiation, this book will show you how to crush that aspect in real estate. On our next book, we have to be able to answer this question. How do I actually save or access money to do real estate deals? Because bottom line, the deals are out there, but if you don't line up the money, you can't make them happen. Guess who answers this question? This one comes from The Millionaire Next Door. This book by Thomas Stanley had such a huge impact on my perspective in the early game. You realize that for the first 5 years of investing, I didn't own a single nice thing. I basically saved every penny and I rolled it forward. 5 years later, built a 10,000 square foot house, a mansion right on the golf course, right outside the canyon, could drive any car I wanted, and since then I've gone on to travel dozens and dozens of countries all around the world with my loved ones. And guess what? This man has a message for you. Wealth is more often the result of a lifestyle of hard work, perseverance, planning, and most of all, self-discipline. And with that, he also says, whatever your income, always live below your means. He's basically a fan of essentially saying that if you're gonna work for someone else until you become rich, then you gotta learn how to do that smart. And here's what he did. Thomas Stanley studied millionaires and he found that they shared some things in common. Let's take a look. Here's the first one. Live well below your means. The more you can live below your means, the more money you have to invest. Number two, use time, energy, and money efficiently. Basically, your time, your energy, your money, they're resources. And so if you use them appropriately, you can actually set some of that aside for building a business, investing in real estate, or having money to do so. The third trait of the wealthy is not something this generation is super keen on. He says you should want financial independence instead of wealth artifacts. Some people want wealth because they want to drive the Lambo, they want to live in the nice house, but you know what? There's something more important than all those things. Freedom. Freedom! The time and the freedom and the money to do what you want with your life. I've always valued that way more than what I have. The fourth attribute of the wealthy is no parental economic support. They did it themselves. They didn't inherit the money. It didn't come from outside of them. But these millionaires went on to also share something else in common. They have self-sufficient adult children. In other words, they taught them the basics of how to be a successful human being because they were living it themselves. Number six, leverage the market. In other words, the game of real estate. I love in this book how Thomas actually talks about the game of real estate, and he calls them accidental millionaires because they bought right, they held their homes long enough, and by the time they made $1 million, guess where most of that money was stored? In their real estate. And the final common denominator amongst wealthy people, they chose the right vocation. In other words, they didn't just kind of fall into a career. They were methodical. They worked that career. They climbed the ladder. Now, I'm going to tell you, this is a criticism for me. A lot of people that choose a traditional route financially in life become millionaires this way. For me, I ended up doing things far more aggressive, which leads me to my fifth and final recommendation for a book you need if you want to make millions of dollars. Which brings me to our final book and our final question. What is the quickest way to make the most money in the game of real estate? And it's right here. Do you want to know what it is? Let's check it out. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. It's my book. I've read every real estate book on the planet, and guess what this does? This is a guide to how you make money in real estate, whether you do or don't have money. And guess what? When I started, I didn't have money. There is a simplest way of doing real estate, and this is a question people don't ask themselves answered in this book. It's about taking action, but on the right strategy. You see, the real estate system you'll learn in this book takes the least time, the least effort, and the least risk. However, it also creates the most value for society, and it generates the greatest returns for more investors in any given market than any other system you're going to encounter. Feels kind of weird to quote myself and then read my own quote, but yes, that's what I said in this book. And it's my journey of how I became financially free at the age of 26. And if you take all of my wealth away from me and I start from scratch, I know how to be an instant millionaire because of the knowledge in this book and what you're learning in these other books. So we're back to the question of the day. Why read? These books, They have been written by master mentors that have mastered the different skills. You bring them together, you can't help but becoming a multimillionaire. Look at the skills. You get the brains, the negotiation power, you learn how to save, leverage your time. Most importantly, you learn how to take action. Let's take some action right now. Do you see this signed $100 bill? I'm putting it right here in this copy of my book. And in a moment, you're gonna follow me in my car. I'm gonna show you exactly where I'm gonna deposit this. No matter where you live in the world, if you get your hands on this book and this $100 bill, you can keep it, and you can also get in touch with me and exchange it for $10,000 of free mentorship with me. What does that look like? You and I are gonna sit together face to face, and I'm gonna show you exactly how to make your next $1 million in real estate. You want it? Come and find it. Check it out. This is a free ticket for you to get mentoring with me, and I'm gonna tell you right now, that can make all the difference in the world. My very first mentor helped me buy my first home. I remember when I found the deal, I was nervous. He verified step by step that it was a good deal, and then he actually showed me how to negotiate it. That first house kicked off my first $1 million I ever made. And so today I'm excited, I'm gonna be paying it forward, and this is an opportunity for you. So check it out, there's a little bit of a treasure hunt. I'm gonna drop some hints right now. I am in Provo, Utah. And if you watch carefully, you're gonna get all the hints that you need for finding exactly where I place this book. Well, here we are. This literally could be a ticket for you to $1 million. I'm gonna put it right here in the book. In the description below, you've got my cell phone. So all you have to do is take a picture, send it to me. If you can find this place in Provo, Utah. And if you find it, it's yours. Hey, thanks for watching today's video. Whether you find that book and the free ticket for $10,000 of mentoring with me or not, you should at least get a copy of the book for free. Click the link below and it's yours. Cover the shipping and handling. My team will send it out to you. Devour the knowledge and then take action on it. By the way, as you can probably tell, I'm a fan of Robert Kiyosaki. He got me started on a lot of my real estate journey. But in this video right over here, I do a deeper dive. And I do want you to be aware, there are some things that I don't necessarily agree with. Check it out. I like put this blinker on and this guy's like speeding up. I'm like, you're so typical Provo, Utah. Let me guess, you're a college kid.
Yeah.
And then he honks at me because I got in his lane.